colony to superpower. The real story of the American empire. Imagine a bunch of rebellious colonies with barely trained soldiers taking on the most powerful empire in the world and winning. Now fast forward a few centuries. That scrappy group of colonies has transformed into one of the most powerful countries on Earth, from having no navy to commanding fleets across every ocean, from trading with native tribes to controlling the global economy. So how did it happen? How did the United States rise from a fragile colony to a world-shaping superpower? It's not just about freedom and democracy. The story is deeper, more complicated, and a whole lot more interesting than most people realize. Let's count down the 10 most important moments that helped turn the United States from a small breakaway colony into the modern empire it is today. 10. The American Revolution, 1775 to 1783. This is where the story really begins. 13 colonies, sick of British taxes and control, decided to fight back. It wasn't just about being treated unfairly, it was about building something new. The colonies didn't just want freedom, they wanted a future where they could decide their own fate. The war lasted 8 years and looked hopeless at many points. But thanks to a mix of determination, clever leadership, and help from France, the colonies pulled off the impossible. When the war ended in 1783, the United States was officially independent. But the fight had created something bigger than just a country. It created a mindset that America could stand on its own and grow into something far greater than anyone imagined. 9. The Louisiana Purchase, 1803. Just 20 years after the Revolution, America made a move that would completely change its size and potential. President Thomas Jefferson bought a massive chunk of land from France for $15 million, what's now called the Louisiana Purchase. This deal doubled the size of the U.S. and opened the door to westward expansion. It wasn't just about land, it was about resources, control, and ambition. The purchase gave the U.S. control over the Mississippi River and access to trade routes that were critical for growth. It also set the tone. America was willing to expand fast, and it wasn't afraid to make bold moves to do it. 8. The Monroe Doctrine, 1823. In 1823, President James Monroe made a statement that would shape American foreign policy for the next century. He basically told European powers to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. The US wouldn't get involved in European wars, but it also wouldn't tolerate Europe interfering in North or South America. At the time, the US was still growing and not nearly as powerful as European empires. But this message was clear. America saw itself as a leader in the Americas. It wanted to shape its neighborhood without foreign interference. This idea of influence, especially over other countries, is one of the first signs of empire thinking. 7. The Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. A few decades later, the US went to war with Mexico. The reason? America wanted more land. By the end of the war, the US had taken a huge portion of Mexico's territory, including present-day California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. It was a massive land grab, and it instantly turned the US into a country that stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This was manifest destiny in action, the belief that America was meant to expand across the continent. But this war also raised serious questions about imperialism, race, and power. It showed that the US was willing to use force to grow, and that it was starting to think like a rising empire. 6. The Spanish-American War, 1898. This short but important war marked a major turning point. In 1898, the US went to war with Spain after the explosion of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor. Whether or not Spain actually caused it didn't matter. The war began, and America won quickly. As a result, the US gained control of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. For the first time, America had overseas territories. It was no longer just a continental power. It was becoming global. The war also marked the start of America playing a larger role in international politics. This was the moment the US officially stepped into the world stage as an empire with territories far from its mainland. When World War I broke out in 1914, the US stayed neutral at first, but by 1917, it had joined the war. The country sent troops, supplies, and money that helped tip the balance in favor of the Allies. More importantly, America's involvement showed that it wasn't just a rising power, it was now essential to the outcome of global conflicts. After the war, President Woodrow Wilson pushed for the League of Nations, hoping to shape the new world order. Even though the US didn't join the League, the message was clear. America wasn't going to sit on the sidelines anymore. It was becoming a key player in world affairs. 4. The Great Depression and the New Deal. 1930s. The 1930s were rough. The stock market crashed in 1929, leading to massive unemployment, bank failures, and widespread poverty. But what happened next reshaped the country's role both at home and abroad. President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, a series of programs that helped rebuild the economy and gave the federal government more power. This was important for America's rise because it showed that the country could bounce back from disaster. It also proved that the government could take an active role in solving big problems. This new level of national unity and federal strength helped prepare the US for its next big moment on the world stage. Third World War II, 1941 to 1945. World War II changed everything. The US entered the war after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941. By the end of the war in 1945, America had become the undisputed leader of the free world. It had the largest economy, the most advanced military, and was the only country to possess nuclear weapons at the time. The war also left Europe and much of Asia in ruins, while the US emerged stronger than ever. It created global institutions like the United Nations and helped rebuild countries through the Marshall Plan. America wasn't just a superpower, it was the superpower, and it would stay that way for decades to come. 2. The Cold War and Global Dominance, 1947 to 1991. After World War II, the world was split into two major camps: the capitalist West, led by the United States, and the communist East, led by the Soviet Union. This started the Cold War, a long, tense period of rivalry, spying, proxy wars, and nuclear threats. The US fought wars in Korea and Vietnam, supported anti-communist forces around the globe, and spent trillions to outmatch the Soviet military. But the Cold War wasn't just about military power. It was also about culture, technology, and influence. From Hollywood movies to the moon landing, the US pushed its ideas and values everywhere. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the Cold War ended, and America was left standing alone as the world's only superpower. 1. The post-September 11th era and the modern empire. The attacks on September 11th, 2001, shocked the country and changed its global strategy. The US launched the War on Terror, invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, and began a new chapter of military involvement overseas. This era wasn't just about national security, it was also about projecting power and influence in a rapidly changing world. Today, the United States has military bases in over 70 countries, controls key global trade routes, and remains deeply involved in international politics. Its culture, technology, and economy touch nearly every part of the planet. While the idea of empire might not always be used, the reach and power of the US look a lot like one. And even though its dominance is being challenged, especially by rising powers like China, the American empire, built over centuries, is still very much alive. If you learned something new or just enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.